Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. That might sound like quite a mouthful. I actually gave myself my own job title, and as you will likely find out as you listen to this podcast, I'm kind of wordy. Why use one word when 12 will do? Is sort of my life motto, not on purpose. It just happens to be how I'm wired. So in my work as an angelic practitioner, the best job ever, I offer one-on-one angel sessions that will help you connect with your divine guidance and your team of light. I offer soul mentoring, which allows for ongoing support as you move through a time of transformation or growth. And then I offer a variety of classes. And I have a new class starting just about every 6 weeks. My classes tend to be small in size, so if you are looking for an intimate community where you can be loved, inspired, and mentored, I invite you to sign up for my mailing list, which you can find at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. But for now, the angels and I are here to bring you soothing, comforting energy, some heartfelt conversation, and maybe even a story or two to help you fall asleep or rest or bring some more grace into your day. This podcast is born of two of my favorite forms of self-care, connecting with the angels and listening to a sleep podcast. I listen to a sleep podcast to be specific, every night to help me fall asleep, and I've been doing so for years. And that's what guided me to create this podcast for you. I'm laughing, I'm sorry. My neighbor's dogs just decided to start barking, so hold on. Okay, hopefully you will not hear that as a disruption. Also, the birds should start chirping soon. It is early morning as I record this, and the birds tend to sing their song to the sun this time of day. So you can just receive that as some extra ambiance for your listening pleasure. So as I was sharing, I listen to a sleep podcast every night. I find that listening to a soft narrative, one that doesn't require deep focus, helps bridge the way between my waking life and sleep. Just last night, I was having trouble falling asleep because I had inadvertently napped in the afternoon. It was Sunday, and I just found myself very tired, and I took a nap. And some people find naps to be restorative and helpful. I am not a good napper. They do not help me. Almost always I am more tired from napping, and then I have a harder time falling asleep. So I was having a hard time zoning out and falling asleep last night. And so I put on an episode of a podcast called The Sleepy Bookshelf. And I listened to one episode, and I still wasn't asleep, which is very unusual for me. I'm usually out within 20 minutes. And so I put on a second one, and then I finally fell asleep. So I create these podcast episodes because they help me, and I hope they help you as well. So each episode is about an hour long because that's my preference. I prefer longer episodes so that I don't have to feel like I'm hurrying up to sleep. There's a very charming podcast that I adore, but her episodes are only about 20 minutes long. And so I can't listen to them to go to sleep because I'm usually still awake. Or if I'm close to the end of the episode, I get a little anxious. So I listen to her episodes at about 4 a.m. when, if I don't fall asleep, it's okay. But this episode and my podcast will be about an hour long for you. So you have plenty of time. And this isn't the kind of content that you have to pay deep attention to or take notes or anything like that. We're going to bring to you soothing and comforting, loving, light-filled energy and messages so that you can feel more connected with your team of angels and the love that is here for you. So I invite you to take a deep breath in and do your best to get comfortable wherever you are. And as you breathe in and out, your angels are bringing waves of love to you. And I'm pausing because I'm trying to decide or attune to the flow for this episode. I have a theme I want to talk about, and I'm trying to decide, is this a conversation we have before I bring the angels in or after? And I'm just tuning in with the angels. Okay, well, they say before. So let me share with you the theme. This is not story time, just so you know. Story time will come later. But I want to share with you something that's been very present for me. I'm going to be a little cryptic here, and I hope you'll understand why. I'm not ready to have a really detailed conversation about this, but what I have found often is that when I am navigating something, if I can reflect upon it and share it with you, it might help you where you're at as well. So I'm struggling with something. Now, before your beautiful empathic heart gets worried, this is struggling with a small s, not a capital S, not all caps. In fact, if I were typing this out in a sentence, the word struggling might actually be in a smaller font than the rest of the words. So this is a small struggle, but sometimes and somehow feels enormous. So I am in the midst of a beautiful, heartfelt, creative project that I am deeply excited about. And yet, there is a part of this that intimidates me and overwhelms me. There, I said it. And for the past few weeks, I've been dancing around it. I've been distracting myself. I've been working on the part of the endeavor that delights me. The best metaphor I can give you is if I wanted to learn to make cake, because if you know me, everything somehow comes back to food. So that's my metaphor. I'm enjoying the part where I'm going to sample all the different kinds of cake that I like so I can decide which ones I ultimately want to specialize in. But the part where I actually have to learn how to make the cake and trial and error and have flour all over the floor, the part that feels hard is the part that I'm struggling with. And this is not an unusual pattern for me. If you've been listening to this podcast or you've taken any of my classes, you will know that I do not like hard work. I don't know that many people love hard work, but I really have an aversion to it. I like the parts of life that are joyful and happy and fluffy and playful. And so much of what I have done with Illuminating Souls has been born out of the parts that I love and enjoy. Very little of what I have to do for my work feels like work. It feels like great joy. And so there's this aspect of something new that I'm doing that I'm struggling with because it feels hard and overwhelming, and I have built resistance up to it. And so I thought I would just share that with you, that I am a human being like you, and perhaps there is something that is calling to you that maybe you're struggling with as well. Maybe you know all of the beautiful adages we talk about here, right? That your spirit is mighty, that you are a creative spirit, that you are powerful, that you are beautiful. And yet, there's this thing that feels hard, that maybe isn't really hard, right? There are things that I do every day that I find easy that other people might find hard, right? I find it easy to talk with people on a podcast. I find it easy to teach. I find it easy to create beautiful, inspiring messages for people. And maybe for you, you have a calling for that, but it feels hard or it intimidates you. It's like we all have this arbitrary bar that says, my comfort zone is here, and then that no man's land beyond the arbitrary comfort zone. That's the part that's hard and scary and intimidating. And so I just wanted to reflect on that with you. I don't have any brilliant answers on how to navigate it, but one thing did come forward for me. One of the ongoing conversations over the years that I have with my husband, and it always amuses me when it comes up, is if I'm struggling with something and I am sharing with him about it. He's a good listener. And he gets this little twinkle in his eye and he says, have you talked with your friends about this yet? And that is code for, have I asked the angels for help about this yet? And almost always my answer is no. Because when I am in my Earth Girl mode, when I am in my Laurel is overwhelmed mode, I forget all about the angels. I don't want you to think that I live 24/7 plugged into this beautiful, exalted place of love. I mean, it's always plugged into me, but I'm not always observant of that or aware of it or dancing with it, however you want to use that metaphor. And so my answer to my husband is almost like, yeah, no. And then I'm a little embarrassed and I think, wow, this is what I've devoted my life to, and I have forgotten to do that. And so this morning, as I was receiving my shower download, which is always sacred time, about what I was going to share with you in this episode, it occurred to me, and Wes was not there with me, I wasn't talking to him about it, but his voice lives in me, and I thought, wow, you know what I haven't done? I haven't asked the angels for help with this, which is crazy. I mean, I know they're helping me with it, first of all. I know they're in the room. I know they're helping me with it. But I haven't asked them to help me come into a state of inspiration and ease in the creation of this part of this endeavor. To me, it has felt like it will require a lot of efforting. It'll be hard. I didn't even realize I had it wired this way. I think sometimes we spend so much time in familiar ground that we lose altitude and we forget how much we're participating in the creation of these experiences. So in this moment, I am asking the angels to come in and help make this easy or graceful. And graceful. I'll take both. So from this place, I want to call in the angels so that you know they're here and I know they're here. And if there's any place that you're feeling overwhelmed or intimidated, or maybe you have a creative project that has been whispering to you for a long time that you just can't seem to get movement on, let's call in the angels. Let's bring in some love. Let's clear the path for more light. So I invite you to get comfortable. And if you're in bed or getting ready for sleep, just cozy on up and snuggle on in and let the angels do all the heavy lifting here. So beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of love and light and grace and ease, that you help to clear the way so that we can feel the way is clear as well. And I ask that you bring blessings of light to each of our beloveds hearing this message. And angels, I ask for extra support in the things right now that feel a little out of reach. I ask that you help to expand our comfort zone of what we believe is possible and available to us. I ask that you bring to us divine momentum so that we can embark upon small inspired action steps imbued with beautiful divine intention that will open gateways of possibilities and opportunities that will allow us to step onto higher ground, becoming more ourselves than ever before. And dear ones, just take some nice deep breaths in. That if there are any aspects of life which feel intimidating right now, just offer this up to the angels for help. And just breathe. And the angels are clearing the way. They are bringing to you attunements and calibrations for forward momentum in a way that will inspire you and delight you. You know, I'm hearing the angels come forward, and this is sort of the essence of what they're saying or reminding us of. There are things that are hard because they are hard. Yes? There are things that are hard, and they really are hard. And then there are things that are hard because we make them hard. Isn't that interesting? So, the angels are bringing us healing, especially around the parts that feel hard but don't have to be hard, right? To help open up some spaciousness for a deeper breath. to bring in that beautiful place of effortlessness wherever it is readily available to us. And just breathe and let the light come in, and I will say for myself and for all of us that I am opening up to divine support, that I am willing to see this with new eyes, to approach this in a new way that creates spaciousness for grace and joy and love to be born. And I offer this up for you as well. The light is here with me, beautiful friend, and it is here with you as well. We are being invited into a space of expansion, of transformation. It might feel like it is a very small shift, but it is one that will create much more space for you and for me too. So take another deep breath in, allowing this light to move through your body, to move through your mind and your emotional heart, and receive the invitation that is singing to you. One of my teachers, Mary Halnick, has said before, I love this quote from her. She said, there is a difference between inertia and incubation. And I'm pretty good at discerning the difference. I love that invitation for reflection. And I will offer up that this specific area that I have been reflecting on with you is a place where I sense I have slipped into some inertia. And so I ask for divine momentum, some help to get things rolling in a way that will be beautiful and joyful and easy, so that even more beauty can be born into this world, into my life, into the life that I share with you, all of that good stuff. And I affirm this for you too. My beautiful friend, there are beautiful whispers of encouragement and inspiration and creativity that are singing to you now as well. And you don't have to figure out how to do it or what to do. There is divine momentum coming to you now, flowing to you to bring more ease and light your way. So again, just breathe. You're already breathing, but take an intentional breath in if you are still awake, and release and receive the blessings that are here for you now. And so if you are intending to fall asleep, you just drift off whenever you are ready. And while you rest, I'm going to share with you a story. So for this story time, I'm guided to share with you a time when I walked through a gateway that really intimidated me, scared me, but also thrilled me. Like my destiny was on the other side of this gateway. And this feels like this is a really good story to share, especially considering the conversation we just had. And it has to do with how I opened, or not, it's not the totality of the story, but it has to do with a component or a chapter in my adventure of awakening to my mystical gifts. So it was 2004, And I had been through an incredible experience at the University of Santa Monica. I had already graduated from their master's program in spiritual psychology, and I was finishing up the third year program, which was offered independently for consciousness, health, and healing. And I had worked deeply with goddess energy, and that's a whole other chapter I'll share with you sometime. But there was this voice within me, and it was guiding me to open to my mystical gifts. Now, I didn't really know what that would mean. I certainly had some impressions about it. I'd had some super interesting, awesome experiences in my 3 years at USM. I'd had psychic experiences before. I had been learning and experiencing within the New Age community. So it's not as if I was a newbie to all of this, but what I didn't know is what would my mystical gifts look like. How would they be expressed through me? It felt like it was this deep, ancient wisdom, these gifts that would come online that I didn't yet fully understand. And I was very fortunate to be living in Los Angeles, where there were a lot of resources to explore this. We had the Bodhi Tree bookstore. They offered classes there. There were always different authors going to speak there. There were different publications. There were different schools that taught different forms of psychic training and energy medicine. And I remember even going to one of my teachers and sharing with her that I wanted to open to my mystical gifts, and did she have any suggestions? And she offered a suggestion, and it fell flat for me. It was as if vibrationally I was looking for a match, like I would know it when I found it. And so I would flip through these metaphysical magazines that were local to Los Angeles, and all these different teachers and schools would share about their upcoming classes. This was before social media. And I would flip through the pages and things looked interesting, but it wasn't my answer yet. And so I had had friends who studied with Doreen Virtue, and at the time Doreen Virtue was a top-tier New Age author and teacher. If you haven't heard of her before, don't go look her up now. I say that because several years ago, she made a 180-degree pivot, and she is now a born-again Christian and doesn't believe in any of this stuff anymore, which was very confusing to her community, but I don't know, it's a long time ago, and she is entitled to live her spiritual life the way she is guided. So, but at the time, she was a very popular teacher. Her classes would often sell out. I had a couple of friends who had taken her angel therapy practitioner training, and when they had shared about it, I was very happy for them. I thought the idea of working with the angels was very sweet. I don't mean that to sound condescending. I just mean, oh, that's so sweet. How lovely. And I'm happy for you. That, for my friends, right? I'm so happy you have found something. But there was nothing inside of me saying, this is my destiny. There wasn't, the hair standing up on my arms saying, that's your thing too, Laurel. But I remember just continuing, like, what is this going to mean to open to my mystical gifts? It felt like a calling. Something was moving inside of me. And so one night, I think it was, I seem to think it was nighttime, I was at my computer, and something told me to go look at Doreen Virtue's website again. I had visited it before, because again, I had friends who had studied with her. And as I was going through her website, she had, I don't know, probably a half a dozen classes she was offering. One was a mediumship class that would take place in October. And then there was also going to be an angel therapy practitioner training in Glastonbury, England. Now, if you don't know about Glastonbury, England, it is very goddess-centric. So as I was working with goddess energy in 2004, I had become very enchanted with the idea of Glastonbury. I had read Mists of Avalon, and I thought, wow, that sounds amazing. And this is what I heard or felt or knew. I heard this knowingness in me that said, if you want to get where you are going, take these 2 classes. And what they were talking about was the mediumship class and angel therapy practitioner training in Glastonbury, England. And they said, don't whittle this down to size. Don't have this make sense. Sign up for both of these classes right now. And I knew what they were talking about in terms of whittling it down to size, because I tend to be thrifty. And if I was going to take angel therapy practitioner training in Glastonbury, I would pay for a hotel and air travel, and, it'd be a more expensive trip, even though I could afford it at the time. I could afford it now too. I didn't mean to make that sound, but I was making a corporate salary, and so that part wasn't hard. And she was also teaching it in Laguna, which at the time I was living in LA, and Laguna was 90 minutes away, and that would have been much easier for me, assuming that that was part of the recipe for what I was supposed to be doing next. But it was very clear, go to Glastonbury, and before that, take the mediumship class. So I signed up for both of the classes. It was quite a hefty investment. Thank God for my corporate salary. And then I just kind of let it go. In my mind, the mediumship class was going to be about channeling. A lot of these terms, mediumship, intuitive readings, channeling, are often used interchangeably. At least they were by me at that point. So I thought mediumship might be about connecting with spirit guides, right? With angels, with channeling messages from source. And then about a week before the class, I get the introductory email from her staff. And the email says, make a list of your dearly departed loved ones and bring some pictures, because it will help then when we are making the connections in class. And I realized, oh my God, we're going to be talking to dead people. Like, this is mediumship. And I felt so much fear move through me. I was so intimidated. And I didn't know what scared me more, that I would be able to do this or that I would not be able to do this. Both outcomes terrified me. It was like, what's behind door number 3? Do I even want to know? Do I even want to know what this is going to mean? And I had a group of women I was meeting with at the time, my sacred sisters, and I remember crying to them like, oh my God, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? What does this mean? Because especially on this metaphysical journey, there are moments when we open to a bigger definition of who we are, and it changes the game. That's how I felt back in whenever that was, in the mid-'80s, that I had my first psychic experience. And I remember being very intimidated by this idea that I was psychic. Like, oh my God, what does this mean about my life? And there are 2 episodes in the archive about that. So just look for my first psychic experience episode. So I won't recap that for you here. So all this fear was up for me. And And this is where I'm going to share with you one of my most sacred stories that I haven't shared on the podcast before, but if you've taken classes with me, you may have heard this before. As you know, I grew up Jewish. And that's why this experience feels all the more remarkable to share with you. So about, 5 days before the mediumship workshop, I had a dream. And the dream really felt like a visitation. And one of my teachers has said one of the ways you can tell the difference between a dream and a visitation is even years later, all the details and colors are still there in your memory. So in this visitation, in this dream, and I'm not going to share the whole of it with you, but I'll share enough of it with you that you'll understand. I was going to be in a play with Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary. And in the play, I became the embodiment of Mother Mary. And Mary Magdalene was wounded, and she had her head in Jesus' lap. And as Mother Mary, I placed my hands upon her face and began healing her. And Mary Magdalene said, "Your hands are cool." And I said, "I know." And as this scene was playing out, again, I am feeling the embodiment of Mother Mary, and I am feeling the presence of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. The song, I think it's from either Godspell or Jesus Christ Superstar. They've all blended together. But it says, I'm not going to sing it, but I'll tell you the words. Try not to get worried. Try not to hold on to problems that upset you now. Don't you know everything's all right? Yes, everything's fine. And that just kept looping. It just kept looping. And when I woke up, everything about that dream was still very present with me. And I was so surprised because I wanted to say to Jesus and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, don't you guys know that I play for the other team? Why am I having this very Christ-centric visitation? But it was so beautiful. And then the rest of that week, whenever I thought about mediumship training, that song would loop. Try not to get worried. Try not to hold on to problems that upset you now. Don't you know everything's all right? Yes, everything's fine. And I'm feeling like the tingles and chills moving through me as I share this with you. So then I get to the mediumship training. It was a small group training. I think there were 27 people. I don't know why that number sticks out. Maybe that was how many were there. I don't know. And it was in a meeting room in Laguna Beach. And so mediumship is the art of connecting with dearly departed loved ones. And to this day, I don't know that mediumship is my strongest gift. I think it intimidates me a little bit because you have to be able to bring forward evidential information so that whoever you are reading for, they will know that you are connecting with their dearly departed loved one. But I want to share with you some of the really important things that happened to me in those 3 days of mediumship training. And I don't know what order they happened in, so I'm just going to share them as they come up in my heart. So at one point, Doreen and the woman who was working with her were going to do healing for each one of us. And my memory was this was going to help heal some of the fear that we had about light work. That it's not uncommon that as light workers or light bearers, we feel a fear of opening to our gifts. We're coming from 2,000 years of monotheistic belief systems that this kind of work and these gifts are dangerous and bad and will take you down a dark path, all of that kind of stuff that shows up. And I know for myself that I had been very enchanted and interested with past lives, and any time I explored a past life that had to do with my mystical gifts, it was one of those lifetimes that ended badly. I was a healer, and then it ended badly. I won't go into what that means. You can just infer that for yourself. So as I recall, she was working with each one of us. We were seated in a big circle. There was this beautiful metaphysical music playing, and she had a big Atlantean crystal that she was holding over our third eye, and there were tuning forks that were being played over our crown chakra and around our aura. It was this beautiful ceremony. And I was seated in a position in the circle that I would be in the last third of people to go. Like, so many people were going before me. So I was just sitting there in meditation because that's what we were told to do. And I was, praying for the clearing, that I could open to my gifts. I don't even remember what I was asking for, but this is what happened. I had 3 spontaneous past life regressions where I served God, and those lifetimes were beautiful. They were beautiful, and I felt the love and the devotion to God that I felt in those lifetimes. And it was remarkable. In one of them, I was a very young woman, 12 or 13 years old, who chose to go into the convent to be the bride of Christ. That's how I held it in consciousness in that lifetime. And it didn't feel like I was doing this because I thought I should, or this is what we do to be devoted to God. It felt like I had a very intimate relationship with Jesus. Like he visited me. I knew him. I knew his spirit. And I could think of nothing more beautiful than devoting my life to walking with the Christed light. So I went into the convent and became a nun. It was a very Spartan life, but it didn't trouble me because the warmth of God was always with me. And I lived out my lifetime serving God, and it was beautiful. In another regression, as I was sitting in the chair, my head and shoulders started feeling this heaviness, like almost like my head was being pushed into my shoulders, but I felt this sense of majesty and deep connection with spirit. And as I looked into that lifetime, I was going through I want to say Native American, and I don't really know what community I was with, but it was, for the lack of a better description, I want to say it was almost a Native American ceremony. And there was this massive headdress on me. It was placed upon my head, and I had to hold it up. But it was a great honor to hold it up, and I felt so deeply connected with, Mother Earth and Father Sky and my people, and it was so powerful and beautiful, and I felt like I was walking in harmony with the world. I was going to say the universe, but I don't know that I was contemplating the universe in that lifetime. It was the world and beyond. and this wisdom was moving through me and the ancestors. Like, it was just so powerful. So that was another one of the lifetimes. And the third lifetime is not as clear for me, but I was a healer, and it feels like it was in one of those ancient civilizations, like Egypt, or one we don't even know about anymore. And my head was shaved, and I'm carrying a tray full of oils and herbs for ceremonies. Again, felt very on purpose in that lifetime, very connected. So I share this with you because something happened as a result of that experience, and that from that moment on, I have never felt fear about doing this work. It cleared. And instead, what I have been deeply connected to is the beauty of what it is to live a lifetime devoted to God, in alignment with the light. And so something very important happened to me in that experience that I have difficulty describing, but I don't want to say that I didn't feel fear when I was launching Illuminating Souls, that I still haven't had fear about, oh my God, is this reading going to be okay? But I mean the karmic fear that I had felt about opening to these gifts, that thankfully, thank God, that cleared for me. Another really meaningful experience I had that weekend was as I was sitting at lunch with some of the other women in the class. I was sharing with them about my dream about Jesus and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. Like, where else was I going to talk about this? And one of the women who became a friend of mine, named Linda, she had lymphedema in her legs. And I was telling her about how in the dream I became Mother Mary and put my hands on Mary Magdalene's face and began healing her. And Linda just matter of factly goes, well, let's see if it works. She says, why don't you try healing my legs? And I said, what do you mean? She says, well, just bring that Mother Mary energy through and put it on my legs and let's see what happens. And I was like, okay. I mean, I had no expectation that anything was going to happen, but okay, why not? I'm in a mediumship workshop, right? All kinds of mystical things are happening. And so I sort of attuned. I'd been at USM now for 3 years, so I had this, way of kind of attuning. And I asked Mother Mary to come through my hands. That was what I did. And I placed my hands on her legs and just sort of meditated and prayed. I did not have any sort of cosmic experience in that time. I didn't know things about her, about Linda. I just kind of sat there and I prayed. And then we were done. And we just kind of looked at each other. We're like, okay, cool. Let's see what happens. And maybe a week later, so the workshop had ended and we'd all gone back to our respective lives. And Linda emailed me. She said, I just have to tell you, my lymphedema went down this week and I'm able to wear a skirt, and I haven't worn that in a really long time. She's like, I don't know what happened, but it helped. I thought, that is so interesting. Wow. And another thing that happened, again, it was a few weeks after the workshop. One of the women in the workshop emailed me and she said, I have been too afraid to share this with you, but I realize I have to get over my fear. She said, while we were in mediumship, I asked the angels to bring me a message for someone in the class. And she said, I was drawn to you, and I saw Jesus kiss you on the cheek and say, I'm looking forward to working with you. And That was the message she was supposed to give me. And so you might wonder, you're a Jewish girl, Laurel. You're Jewish. What's all this Jesus stuff? Does it mean that you're a Christian? It doesn't. I find it a lovely experience. And I don't resonate with Christianity. I have many friends who are deeply Christian. A lot of people in the Illuminating Souls family are. I find profound love and wisdom and beauty from Jesus, Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene as guides and teachers. I suspect one of the reasons that this connection has been made so deeply for me is because it allows me to bring it forward for others for whom it is profoundly meaningful. I know it's a bit of a paradox, but it's what has shown up on my path. And I really stopped trying to understand it. At this point in my life, I no longer feel a deep affinity for any of the religions. I love Judaism. I feel culturally Jewish. My ancestors are Jewish. I have a profound warmth for Judaism and its holidays and its celebration. It definitely is a part of the matrix of my life. But I would say I'm more of a Unitarian. And there are beautiful teachings on many spiritual paths that there isn't just one way to move forward. So, all of these profoundly intimate spiritual experiences came about through the catalyst of registering and making space for and ultimately participating in this mediumship class. And did I find out that I could talk to dead people? That's probably a terrible phrase for it. I use it I think it helps make it feel a little lighter for me. I did. I was able to successfully connect with people's dearly departed loved ones. I've taken other mediumship classes over the years. I find it to be a fascinating modality, and people who do it well, I am absolutely captivated by. I have had a remarkable mediumship reading with a fantastic medium who made connection with my father in a way that was so wonderful. But I didn't necessarily come out of the mediumship class thinking this is my destiny. But I think I was guided to go to the class to open this gateway in service to my mystical gifts. And ever since then, Jesus and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene often come through in my work. And it's so beautiful when it does, because it is almost always profoundly meaningful for whoever I'm working with. And again, I don't feel that the presence that I work with is affiliated with any specific religion. It is this beautiful, expansive, loving presence that is always here, like the angels. So I invite you to take a deep breath in. I'm going to take a deep breath in here. It's interesting. I've been guided to share this story with you, and I hadn't quite been ready. If you notice, the past 2 weeks, not actually, it's only been the past week, the past 2 episodes, I have done replays. Because whenever I would go to sit down to record this, I wasn't quite ready. But I knew this was my next episode. So I don't know why that is, but maybe you do. Maybe this story has great meaning for you. There have been these moments in my life where I have felt that I was moving through a gateway. And I have felt the presence of that gateway before I moved through it. And the gateway intimidated me. Because I knew that this gateway meant that I was moving through profound change, even if I did not know what that change was. And I feel like somehow this gateway is present again. And I don't know what that means. I do not have a deep knowingness of where this gateway leads. But it feels present. And I feel my own pattern of resisting it. Right? Like, oh yeah, forget about the gateway. I'm going to watch some more TV. Yeah, that's not important. I'm going to distract myself with the thing over here. Right? And as I was tuning in this morning to what I was sharing with you earlier about this thing that is calling to me, that is just intimidating me, and I don't want to do it, but I should do it. It would be good for me to do it. And I realize, I suspect that it has to do with the gateway. And for me, I sometimes know what the gateway is, and more often than not, I don't. And I think I don't know this one. My soul knows it. I don't mean to make it sound super scary, but there is, the world is moving through a lot right now. And I've been drawn back to the work of Karen Bishop. I don't know how many of you remember her, but back in 2000 to about 2012, she wrote a lot about ascension. And then she just kind of retired. No longer writes. Or if she writes, I don't know about it. And I've been drawn back to a lot of her concepts. I think that as this world is moving through so much change, that we as light bearers are being invited into our own experiences of recalibration and, dare I say, ascension. Like, I can either get really indoctrinated and enmeshed with the reality or realities that are being born on the earth right now, even though I have very little influence over them. Or I can pivot and focus my energy, my life force, my spirit over things over which I do have influence, that do create more light, that are catalysts of their own right. I can focus upon the things that call to me. And some of these things will require me to expand my comfort zone and to come into these ascension energies and to say yes to some things that might feel hard. And I think I'm guided to share all of this with you because that moment when I felt the fear of the mediumship class, like this was a gateway, and I don't know what scared me more, that I would be able to do it or that I wouldn't. Because at the moment, those were the only two polarities I knew about. Not even realizing that whether or not I could do it would not even be the most interesting part of the conversation. Because something else opened up for me in that journey. And that is this deep connection that I have with Spirit, with God, with Source, clearing the way, the karmic fear, to step into my life's work. And of this lovely connection with the Christed light, and to get to share that with others for whom it is meaningful. Just so you know, if you're Jewish and the Christed light does not resonate with you, I will not foist it upon you. But I work with a lot of people who have Christian roots, and for them this is deeply meaningful. So your path, my friend, is also imbued with these gateways for you. And I don't know what your gateway is right now, but it would not surprise me if it has been whispering to you and preparing you to move into whatever's next. And it's not as if we move through these gateways and we disappear from our present reality. I don't want it to sound that dramatic. I'm still here. I'm still Laurel. I'm still going to talk to you about food. I'm still going to read from old TV guides. There's not going to be, at least I don't suspect there's going to be any sort of profound shift that you're going to be able to. No. It's a shift within me. Right? Just like your shift might be a shift within you. That the light, that spirit, that source is beautiful and expansive. We are ever evolving beings. And we are always invited into this beautiful expansion and light and expression of our authentic selves. I'm guided to share this quote with you. It's from something that I wrote. And I'm paraphrasing. Please don't ever think that you're stuck or out of chances. Like this world is opening for you. It is blossoming open for you. And there are experiences, there are endeavors, there are creative projects, there are friendships, there are opportunities that are taking form right now, that are being cultivated for you. So just breathe into that. You don't have to know what it is. You don't have to figure anything out. Just open to the spark of light that is you. The beautiful, authentic, divine essence that is you. And that right now where we are, God is and all is well. So take some deep breaths in and your angels will continue bringing you blessings and love. And I am so grateful for you and this intimate, sacred space we have been creating throughout these 144 episodes that I have published so far. Because there's this beautiful sanctuary of light that now exists that we can all return to and depend upon. And I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful for being able to share this part of my life with you and my stories and my love with you. What a blessing you are. I'm so deeply grateful for you. So my beautiful friends, thank you for being you and for being here. My life is better because of you, and I'm grateful for you. So I wish you a wonderful rest. I send you love. We'll connect again soon. I love you, and thank you.